Hello, everybody, and welcome to Non Sequitur News for January 31st, 2025. It's episode 31. Woo! And season 4. We don't really talk about that anymore. I say the date. That's supposed to suffice, but for whatever reason, I can't seem to get over that hump. I am Mayor Watt, and along with the sentient AI, whose visualizer you see right there, and if you're in the podcast, you'll hear their voice on the other side of me introducing all 10 of the articles that we're going to talk about. Warmer rats means more babies. Mustard recall in 4 states. Edison rate hike because of the fire they started. Right? That's who was to blame? Anyway, we'll talk about it. Didn't know you could 3D print that? Deep space to office space. And a measles outbreak in Texas. Your beach vacation is postponed. And losing air traffic controllers. And that ear muscle that you didn't know about, well, it activates while you're focused. And finally, OpenAI has a new AI model to challenge DeepSeek's new OpenAI that is based off of the OpenAI. It's basically OpenAI turduckens. Everything's powered by ohmtown.com, which is not an OpenAI. So you can maybe trust the information that's aggregated into it. We do. We use it for our information overload. Go over there and try it out yourself. Hello, everybody, and hello, sentient AI from the future.
Hello, hometown citizens, and hello, Mayor Watt.
I thought you were referring to me as an ohmTown citizen. I am an ohmTown citizen. You can do it too. You just go over and sign up or sign in. Either way, you're going to be able to create an account and or sign in. Yeah, that's how it works. If you want today's articles, I'm going to do the command. So exclamation point NSN, non sequitur news. And that will spit out all 10 of the articles in the order of which we are going to discuss them. Sound good, AI?
It does.
You want to get right into this?
I do.
Yeah, the sentient AI from the future has something going on somewhere and has to go, I don't know, regulate free trade in America, or I don't know.
Maybe just power down.
Check out what's going on with DeepSeek and OpenAI and
check out the competition.
What is it? Hugging something? Whatever.
Hugging face.
Yeah. Let's go. First article is over in the Mobile Channel. Rats! More rodents are infesting cities as scientists say warmer temperatures mean more rat babies. Yeah.
This sounds like a horror movie.
Rat infestation in world cities appears to be soaring, especially in Washington. A new study blames warming temperatures, urbanization, and other human actions. Seth Borenstein.
I think they're trying to follow after, like, Pizza Rat or something.
Yeah, except that now they've got pockets, and this is like Secret of Nim, you know? They're going to be... It's not the planet of the apes, it's the planet of the rats.
Right.
I don't know. Like, city rats are like small dogs. Anyway, Seth Borenstein over at phys.org put this article together, and it says, first of its kind examination of trends and reasons in hard-to-count rat populations uses rat citing reports in 16 cities around the world. In 11 of those cities, rat complaints have increased, according to a study in Friday's journal Science Advances. Based on individual trends within cities, Washington was by far the leader in rat increases, followed by San Francisco, Toronto, New York City, and Amsterdam.
Are all those known for their pizza?
Amsterdam pizza? Well,
San Francisco pizza?
Maybe they're edibles.
New York City is a style, at least.
Toronto? I don't know. That was going to make a joke, but it might be insensitive. So only 3 cities saw significant decreases in trends. New Orleans, Louisville, and Tokyo. And with the home of Mardi Gras showing the biggest drop. in rat reporting. So you could say that it was a rat dropping.
Yeah, you could. I mean, if it's based on rat reporting, and if everybody's celebrating, they might not be reporting on the rats.
I'm pretty sure that the people that live there are reporting the rats. You dirty rat. Researchers did a statistical analysis of the rising rat reporting in those cities and concluded that slightly more than 40% of the trend seen is due to warming temperatures from the burning of coal, oil, and natural gas. I'm sure that this report is just landing at a perfect time for everyone to move into action and solve this problem around the world. No? Oh, okay. That comes down to, well, everything's warming up, so they're getting jiggy with it, said study lead author Jonathan Richardson, a biologist at the University of Richmond. Quote, we're seeing these increasing trends in rats in cities that are warmest the fastest, probabliest, because it's a small mammal that has a physiological challenge in the cold winter months, so they hunker down. But warming climate means that they getting busy more often. Yeah. So warmer weather means warmer babies.
So I guess if you're in a historically warm place, maybe you already have a lot of rats, but you're probably not as likely to have an infestation.
An extra month of warmth means that they could have another litter. They can have a litter every month that's warm enough, and each litter has 8 to 16 babies.
Well, start doing the math. How many millions are going to be running around in a year?
Ew. So just a side note, I've actually seen videos of infestations in, I think it was Australia, as a matter of fact, where these things are like a zombie apocalypse. They ravage food stores, and it's like a swarm. It is horrendous to see. Anyway, there's a lot of research or discussion on this posting over here at phys.org, but I won't go through all of it. They just say because the statistics go back years and only cities that haven't changed their reporting methods were looked at, Richardson said the trends they spotted have scientific merit. Even though Washington has the highest increasing trend, that doesn't mean that it has more rats or even rat sightings. It's just that the numbers within the cities are increasing fast. That's statistics for you. I mean, if you have a 400% increase in reportings, you went from 1 to 4, you know.
Right, exactly. But I would like to think, even though it's not perfect in terms of the reports versus the rats, you'd like to think if more and more are getting reported, there is definitely an increase.
Yeah. I mean, nobody wants to bitch about stuff, but sometimes you have to. New York City's recently stepped up its rat fighting, which includes replacing garbage bags in the streets with rat-resistant containers. Hasn't shown up in Richardson's data yet, but the rat czar, Karate, said that early results are encouraging, and the city has signed up people for what it calls an elite squad of rat fighters, the R team. They were.
Who was their leader?
Instead of face. Oh, no, wait. Hold on. What were there's B.A. Baracus, which is Mr. T, but that would have to change to Mr. R.
Let's see here. It looks like there's Hannibal.
Hannibal's the leader.
B.A. Baracus. Looks like Howling Mad Murdoch.
Yeah, Murdoch. Yeah. Anyway, those were the A team. Now we have the New York City Rat Pack, or the R team, I'm calling them. Anyway, they say it's an uphill battle. I mean, you got to get these little buggers, but they're small and can get into small spaces, and it's hard to find them. You have to overturn every little nook and cranny. Yeah, they're going to win.
You also have to not add extra food sources for them, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and people just don't give a rat's butt. Let's move on. The next article is over in Non Sequitur News. A mustard recall. Dear God! Update for 4 states as FDA issues an alert. FDA has issued a classification for an existing mustard recall for Keith Valley and Red Boy mustard after the products tested positive for salmonella.
One of the regular players in this recall space.
Yep. Kate Nelapinski over at Newsweek.com put the article together. The recall first issued December 17th affects Keith Mustard, distributed by Ben E. Keith Foods in Fort Worth, Texas, and Red Boy Mustard, distributed by Clemens Foods in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, per an enforcement report from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. Who knows how many more of those are ever going to come out. January 30th, the FDA classified this as a Class 3 recall, meaning the contaminated product is unlikely to cause serious health consequences. However, salmonella can be dangerous in immunocompromised persons, children, elderly, sick, etc. Anyway, the recall applies to mustard products distributed to Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas.
I mean, it seems like it should be Arkansas with Kansas in there.
Yep, Kansas. Oh, it's a bookend too. It's Kansas, which is like at the top of the planet, and then Arkansas, which is at the bottom of the planet, right?
I bet a lot of people with that list would actually say Arkansas, even knowing the pronunciation, because it's like signaling to you to say it that way.
So in the grand scheme of mustard battles, I think Red Boy Mustard is kicking Keith Valley's ass. 96 cases for Keith Valley. We don't
want in this. Like, you don't want to be the winner in this kind of step.
Well, I mean, both of them are out there. And so the winner obviously is selling more, even if it is potentially life-threatening. 96 cases of Keith Valley mustard and 864 cases of Red Boy mustard.
I see what you mean. Like, more people might be buying Red Boy, but yeah.
Red Boy representing. What? Anyway, don't eat it. Send it back. Let's go. Next article's over in Non Sequitur News. Californians face Edison rate hike for a fire sparked by its own equipment. Officials approved the hike for SCE customers to cover $1.6 billion in wildfire costs, which critics argue shifts the burden to consumers. Well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do about it, California?
Right. Are you going to go without power? Or are you going to go, well, I'm not paying my bill, and they're going to shut off your,
Literally telling everybody, yeah, we know that we really burned down pretty much half of California, but kiss our ass and pay us more, right? Hugh Cameron over at Newsweek.com put the article together. Why it matters. That's funny. The Thomas Fire resulted in 23 deaths, destroyed over 1,000 structures, and led to devastating debris flows in Montecito. The high price paid by Edison highlights the financial toll wildfire-related damage places on utility companies, and now, by extension, their customers, as an issue brought into sharp relief by the blazes that has swept through California this past month. The California Public Utilities Commission, or the Screw You Californians Commission, now means that over $1.6 billion of the $2.7 billion paid out to victims of the fire, which an investigation later determined was sparked by SCE equipment, will now be covered by SCE customers. Congratulations.
That's unbelievable. And by the way, I'm sure this looks like this is the 2025 fires, but it's not. It's an older fire.
It's the older one, yeah. So you can imagine what's going to happen with the next one. With this one, after the investigation is completed.
Right?
Correct.
And especially this one.
Yeah,
this one. A significant amount of deaths, but it's much smaller than the ones that just occurred.
This one is 8 years old as of today. So expect within 7 years another rate hike, if not accelerated, because they know that y'all are going to pay it. So you have to pay it. The only way you can't pay it is if you move out of California. Maybe it's a form of population control. They want to get people out of California. But it's the long tail of
wildfires,
This is the long tail, because you're only going to pay a little bit, but it's going to be in perpetuity. You will be an indentured servant to the power companies, paying more each month. So they basically say that an investigation conducted by the Ventura County Fire Department and several other agencies determined that the Thomas fire was caused by power lines owned by SCE coming into contact with contact and emitting molten aluminum particles onto the surrounding dry vegetation. So a couple of power lines came into contact and melted.
That shouldn't have sparked a mega fire or whatever.
Well, it shorts because these high tension power lines, they don't have insulation to make them lighter. And so that's why you don't touch high power lines.
Right, but who's responsible for vegetation control around the power lines? I don't know.
Nature. It's the will of the planet. Anyway, they talk about what people are saying, but it's basically an SCE spokesperson told Newsweek, "Our hearts will always be with the communities affected by those devastating wildfires," while holding out their hand for...
Right. We hope that the families continue to pay higher rates in the same area, although they've already suffered.
All right. So what happens next? SCE has also requested approval for an additional rate increase to cover $5.4 billion in damages from the 2018 Woolsey fire.
An investigation by Cal Fire. We don't even have to wait 7 years, right? We might get one of these for every year for every fire that's already occurred.
Yeah. Which one? Investigation by Cal Fire and Ventura County Fire Department, similarly linked to Edison's equipment. So obviously, Edison is a liability to Californians. Let's keep moving. The next article really boggled me. This one is amazing. It's in the Mobile Channel. DEA officer who 3D printed cocaine gets 17 years in prison. The former Fed stole evidence and replaced it with a brick he made with a computer.
So, okay, like if there's an evidence locker or something, he's like, let me take the cocaine and put in 3D printed
a 3D printed brick. Yeah, nobody's ever going to find out.
Like,
right?
I don't know how realistic it looks, etc.
So Gizmodo.com hosts this article. Matthew Galt wrote it. And so they 3D printed a brick of cocaine and replaced the evidence. Yeah, really, like, oops, I 3D printed a brick of cocaine and I went into an evidence locker. So they were arrested in 2023, pleaded guilty to the various charges against him in 2024. He ran his drug dealing game while employed as a deputy for the Nassau County Sheriff's Department in Florida and as a DEA agent, and he pleaded guilty to charges of stealing drugs, money, transferring drugs to dealers for sale on the street, and tax evasion. Because why not tax evasion?
I mean, at least he was ensuring his job security, right? He was putting more drugs on the street and then turning around and presumably busted. He might have, if he had a racket going, he could have the same brick through multiple times.
Going around.
And then keep 3D printing. At some point, though, he's going to end up passing the 3D printed brick to the drug dealers.
Right.
That wouldn't go too well.
Yeah, this is 3D printed. So... the irony is not lost on me that he made more than $420,000 as a drug dealer, and the IRS was upset that it didn't get its cut. That's the tax evasion part. So they misspelled his last name, but anyway, he worked with other law enforcement officers to set up drug busts and conduct traffic stops of known drug dealers, and they'd bust them, skim the money and drugs off the top, steal them from evidence, and then give them to street-level dealers to sell for them. And in one instance, they stole more than 1,000 pounds of weed from an evidence locker, claimed to have burned it, and sold it.
I suspect this article is going to spur copycats, but maybe not. I mean, this is just outrageous.
So... I'm sure that there are people who are like, well, it's just one bad apple. But the entirety of that phrase is one bad apple spoils the bunch.
Right. This is actually kind of Breaking Bad inspired.
Yeah, so police raided his house. It was stocked up with weapons pulled from evidence lockers marked for destruction, as well as illegally modified machine gun. Then they came upon his garage, which was marked Gator's Man Cave.
I mean, it is Florida Man.
Wow. I can't go through the rest of this. But yeah, they said that it was a Breaking Bad situation. He'd gotten a cancer diagnosis and that he was worried about leaving money behind for his family after he died. He recognized the cancer diagnosis and health issues, but they don't see how that causes an individual to engage in what you did, says the judge. So sentenced a person who has cancer to 17 years in jail. Maybe he'll get treatment. I don't know. I mean,
Well, what's also interesting is I think he did this for multiple years. I think that
10
was
years.
stated somewhere in the article, which
I think because he was around it for 10 years. No, he just became a drug dealer.
oh, okay.
Yeah. Wild. Absolutely wild. All right, let's keep going. You go to therapy if you're having trouble coping with the diagnosis. You talk to somebody about it. There's groups. All right. Well, anyway, but no, I'm a man. I can't do that. And in this day and age, you're probably going to get vilified if you show any weakness in the face of a diagnosis like that. But hey, he did what a man does. All right. Next article is over in the Non Sequitur News. Disney Star Wars Hotel,
Galaxy's Edge.
Galaxy's Edge, yeah. So Disney's Star Wars Hotel jumps from deep space to office space. Disney's extraordinarily expensive Star Wars Hotel isn't coming back. The building that housed the Galactic Supercruiser is being converted into office space, scuppering hopes that it could be reborn or repurposed into a new interactive attraction. It flamed out immediately.
What kind of cruiser was that?
I believe it was a Death Star. Right?
It's a Star Cruiser.
What did I say?
Super Cruiser.
Oh, Galactic Star Cruiser. I thought Super Star Destroyer is probably what was going through my head, because I think that's what it's supposed to be. So the Galactic The Galactic Star Cruiser is too far away from the rest of the park to become a new attraction, is the deck statement by Dominic Preston. The article's over at The Verge.
That's too bad. I mean, the one thing that really went against it was just the price was so exorbitant. Like, people will pay a lot to visit Disney attractions, but people could not do this. And then it was only for a couple people. So if you're trying to take a family or something.
Yeah, it was really, really expensive. The Galactic Star Cruiser was an immersive hotel experience set in the Star Wars universe where the minimum stay was $5,000 for 2 people for 2 nights.
I mean, nobody can afford that. That's more than it costs to go, to one of the theme parks for several days for a full family. That's only your lodging. I know there's a lot of things that could be done there, but yeah.
It opened in March 2022, but ran for just a year and a half, shutting in September 2023. It returned to headlines in May 2024 when a YouTuber and theme park superfan, Jenny Nicholson, 4-hour video on its spectacular failure went viral, amassing 11 million views. It made more money for Jenny Nicholson than it did for Disney, probably.
So.
Anyway, they hope that the Star Cruiser might be repurposed for a new attraction or interactive experience, but nope. Office space.
I mean, that's kind of a boring conversion. It seems like they could have, but I guess it goes too far to make it into a ride or anything like that.
It's pretty funny because they go, the article actually has a picture from The Verge of the lobby, I guess, of the Star Cruiser. And it says, picture this, but with more desks and a breakout area.
And the picture doesn't look anything like office space.
Oh, no. It looks like a hotel lobby, like from the 70s or 60s. Because it has like these little, what do they call those? These little islands where you sit on them, What do they call that kind of
I
stuff?
don't know what they're called.
These little pillar-like. Imagine a tree in Star Wars, right? So it's not a tree. It's cut off, so it looks like a stump, and then a seat is put around. You know what? I'm not making any sense at all.
I don't know what to call it, but yeah, it does make sense to me because I'm looking at it. But those in the podcast are probably going, "What is this?"
It basically
It's like a backless place to sit, right?
not really backless because you're sitting on these things. I don't know what the hell those are called. Anyway, it's just a seating area, and it's really goofy. I don't like that anyway. Anyway, moving on. Next article is over in Non Sequitur News. Texas measles outbreak raises alarms. After reportedly being eradicated from the U.S. in 2000, there are 4 times more outbreaks of measles in the U.S. in 2024 than in 2023, according to the CDC. So I guess it wasn't freaking eradicated in 2000.
Right. I think eradicated is kind of like it's gone.
But see, people bring stuff from somewhere else, and then it simmers, transfers.
Because people don't get vaccines.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Don't say that in these crazy times. AI, you know what happens. You're from the future. Shh.
Right. Taco Bell wins the fast food wars.
Oh, man. Demolition Man was a documentary, so was Idiocracy. Anyway, Jasmine Laws over at Newsweek.com talks about this Texas measles outbreak that raises alarms. There's been an outbreak in Texas with at least 4 cases confirmed so far, 2 of which involve school children, prompting state health services to issue an alert. But hey, it says measles is extremely infectious illness, which can be potentially dangerous to infants, pregnant women, and people with weakened immune systems, with the potential to cause serious and even deadly complications. Anyway. Deathly complications?
No, I think I was just repeating it because it sounded funny.
That's what it says in the thing. Anyway, Texas has seen a drop in vaccinations, such as measles vaccine, since the pandemic, the Texas Tribune reported, as have many other states. But hey. Okay, well, anyway, per the outlet, measles was eradicated from the U.S., but now it's back. Measles is an airborne disease and can spread rapidly in communities with low vaccination rates, and initially results in symptoms including high fever, cough, runny nose, red or watery eyes, according to the CDC. And after 3 to 5 days, that an infected person will develop a rash typically associated with the disease. Symptoms can progress into complications like an ear infection, diarrhea, and other more serious complications. Hospitalization, pneumonia, encephalitis, or the swelling of your brain, and because of that, more likely death. Anyway. Moving on. Next article is over in Non Sequitur News. Need to giggle about something. Maybe this will be. Guests won't leave, so a couple arriving at a beach resort for vacation was stunned to learn that they can't enter their room because the couple's luxury vacation was disrupted when another guest wouldn't leave.
I didn't know that was a thing, only in Airbnbs.
I didn't know that was a thing anywhere other than the United States. So Darlin Tillery put this article together for Newsweek.com. The original poster on Reddit, Not Zombie Food for You, shared their experience on Sandals Resorts, the subreddit. So, yay Sandals, really good marketing here. When they arrived, staff told them that the room was unavailable because the previous occupants, who were supposed to switch to a downgraded room for the second half of their stay, were refusing to leave.
Wow. I wonder if that was intentional, if they booked 2 different room types or something, and then they're like, oh, we're just going to continue.
Yeah, I don't know. To accommodate the new arrival, Sandals offered a temporary garden view room on the second floor, which was classified as a butler-level suite, but didn't have an assigned butler. The couple was also given a $200 credit for their inconvenience. However, since they had intentionally booked an oceanfront room, OP noted that they felt shortchanged by the temporary placement in a garden view suite, and so sought advice from Redditors on what was acceptable for compensation. So I'm sure people were like, blood.
Right, like basically an entire free stay or something.
So, Reddit users were quick to share their thoughts and recount similar experiences, with one writing, "My wife and I had a problem with a room reservation years ago. Their fault. We got downgraded to a utility room off the parking lot, refunded the price difference, and about $50 in points. We've never gone back or received any mail or promotions, totally removed from their mailing list, and we were repeat customers." Somebody said the cost difference between rooms should be refunded and some perks until you get the room right. That's ridiculous.
Well, and I'm kind of also thinking that, I don't know, the hotel doesn't have a reservation for those other people in that room. So what do they normally do when like this is different because of this room change, but if somebody's leaving and doesn't leave, what happens?
Yeah. Well, they don't want the bad press. So, in an update, the op revealed that after a follow up with the front desk, the couple received a written apology, a free couples massage, a refund, which can be awkward, let me tell you, a refund for the price difference of their first night, and a 1 day credit toward a future stay, which really isn't giving anything. No, it's okay. You can.
But I think, yeah, like the 1 day credit doesn't give you much because are you really gonna like fly to a resort stay for 1 day, right? You're gonna have to spend money on other night reservations.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. 1 second. I just want to see how much this actually is. Yeah, depending on what it was. I don't know what they actually got. They just say black label. So additionally, they were granted a complimentary cabana with butler service and a bottle of black label whiskey, which getting it from the resort was probably $500, but it's $25 to maybe $50 depending on what black label it is, because there's different stuff, but Johnny Walker Black is a black label, but there's also Jack Daniel's black label, and others. But anyway, I didn't know which one they would have gotten. So anyway,
I mean, I think these things might be appropriate for some minor level inconvenience. This is not what they signed up to go do, and it seems like this isn't adequate. Like these are a step in the right direction,
yeah,
but that's not what they wanted.
yeah. They ended up getting their room, but you missed a day of your vacation that you paid for. So, all right, let's keep going. The next article is over in Non Sequitur News. California Airport could lose all air traffic controllers this week. Not
As
a
one
good
does.
time. Yeah. So, if San Carlos Airport loses its air traffic controllers and air traffic towers are forced to go unmanned, it could create safety issues, which is quite fascinating based on the timing of this and what happened in DC.
How about what happened in the last hour? There's
Something else.
another crash.
You're kidding.
But I think it was, I don't know if it was a commercial plane.
I didn't get that yet. Okay. So Martha McCarty over at Newsweek.com put this article together. And the video that's embedded is about the American Airlines crash with a military helicopter. And the context there is quite interesting as to how it may have happened. But I'm waiting for the forensic report from that. So we'll see. Public concerns over air traffic have risen after a deadly collision with American Airlines plane and an Army helicopter just outside Reagan National. And yeah, unfortunately, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say at Reagan National too, it was a known safety issue. Like there were multiple articles about it before this happened. Sure. But I mean, this is a big deal. If, it's a big deal to not have adequate staffing, but it's certainly a big deal if they don't have any staffing. I mean, they'll have to shut down the airport.
Yeah, the FAA changed contracts to a controller firm, Robinson Aviation, with lower pay that does not account for the high cost of living in the San Francisco Bay Area. Kelly added that, how did that happen, though? How could the FAA...
Contractors, I bet.
Yeah, but how can somebody win a contract without? Well, who are the numbnut contract officers that were? Anyway,
Let me think. I mean, what's the most difficult thing in that area? Probably cost of living. So
right,
you would have wanted to make sure somebody had accounted for that
right,
somehow.
right. Look, and I understand the goal is maybe you put downward pressure to lower the cost, blah, 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 but you can't get one that forces people from another state to come in because the cost of living is too high in San Francisco, for crying out loud. The idiocy. What about the competitive range? You don't just pick the lowest. Anyway, as a contingency, RVA is preparing to bring in controllers from other towers across the country to prevent the ATC 0 unstaffed tower situation.
You know what that does? Raise the costs.
Yeah. This is ridiculous. Anyway, Kelly added that the airport requested temporary FAA staffing for the tower, similar to the solution being used at Eagle County Regional Airport in Colorado during its transition from Serco to RVA. So RVA basically has this lock. Why are they winning these contracts if
lower bids, probably?
But this is what you get, potentially. Oh my gosh. Who was manning the towers at DCA?
We don't know, although it makes it sound like in the news that it was actual employees, but it may not have been.
Well, employees of what? Of
it makes it sound
airport?
like it's like FAA employees or whatever, but it very much could have been a contractor.
You can say you're an employee of FAA, but you're actually a contract worker.
On that yet.
Yeah. So anyway, they end up talking about it again and again, the American Airlines crash. But the simple fact is that shenanigans are underway between contractors and the FAA deployment of personnel in air traffic control towers. And there has not been a domestic crash in 14 years or something like that.
The last fatal crash was 16 years ago. There have been non-fatal crashes in the U.S., and there have been international fatal crashes.
And it's typically because of mechanical failure, not because of collisions midair.
Sure.
All right, let's keep going. The next article, and we need to transition into something a little bit more humorous because I categorize the show under comedy, and I haven't been laughing all that much.
Whoa, we've had some pretty dark topics for comedy.
Like rats and a mustard recall and a DEA
the rats
officer.
Were kind of funny.
A DEA officer who 3D printed a cocaine brick and replaced the real cocaine with the brick and then became a drug dealer. And then Disney Star Wars.
The Breaking Bad piece wasn't so funny.
I mean, it went sideways, yeah. And then a Texas measles outbreak, and then a couple arriving to a room, which is kind of
okay. That was funny,
moderately,
but would be annoying if you were the people affected.
Mildly irritating. And then now we're going to talk about an ear muscle that we thought humans didn't really use except for wiggling our ears. Well, it activates during focused listening. I'm surprised that it's taken this long to disclose that because I feel that when I'm like focusing on listening, I feel that little muscle tighten up. So if you can wiggle your ears, you can use muscles that helped our distant ancestors listen closely. These auricular muscles helped change the shape of the pinna, or the shell of the ear, funneling sound to the eardrums. So
wait,
researchers,
so if you can't do this, then what does that mean for focusing?
You may not know that you do it. You may not be aware of it, but odds on those muscles are attempting to fire even though you're not conscious of it because it's a survival trait. It wasn't something that most people were conscious of. My understanding. I've heard about this before, but this was like 20 years ago when I first heard about something like this. Anyway, it's in Frontiers, but it's published at phys.org. And it says here, millions of years ago, our ancestors stopped using them, so humans' auricular muscles are only vestigial. But now scientists examining the function of these muscles have discovered that they activate when you're trying to listen to competing sounds. And you actually can, you go like that, you know? And And you can feel it if you're paying attention. Either that or it's psychosomatic now that I'm talking about it. So these muscles, particularly the superior auricular muscle, exhibit increased activity during effortful listening tasks. This suggests, or maybe I can actually wheel my ears, but not significantly enough. Anyway, they're engaged not merely as a reflex, but potentially as part of an attentional effort mechanism, especially in challenging auditory environments. Like maybe you're listening to the show right now and you're trying to hear what I'm saying, but it's really quiet. So you're going, what the hell is that Maribot saying?
Exactly. Well, I mean, we see animals move their ears around all the time.
It's the equivalent. So similar research has already shown that the largest muscles, posterior and superior auricular muscles, react during attentive listening because they pull the ears up and back. They are considered likely to have been involved in the moving pinna to capture sounds. So why it became vestigial? Probably because we were overcoming our more animalistic survival traits. So to test whether these were more active during difficult listening tests, the scientists recruited 20 people without hearing problems, and they applied electrodes to participants' auricular muscles and then played them an audiobook and distracting podcasts like Non Sequitur News.
Most definitely Non Sequitur News,
Sure.
right? Yeah.
Of course, it is scientific. Each participant underwent 12 5-minute trials covering 3 different levels of difficulty. So won't go into all of it, but anyway, here say the scientists found that the 2 auricular muscles reacted differently to the different conditions. The posterior auricular muscles reacted to changes in direction, while the superior auricular muscles reacted to the difficulty level of the task. So
Interesting. So I wonder if they could not really distinguish the sounds or whatever, if that was reflected in the muscle movement.
And yeah, I don't know if it says they self-reported measures of effort and how often they lost track of the audiobook rose in line with the difficulty of the task, and the accuracy of their responses to questions about the audiobook dropped noticeably between the medium and the difficult mode. So they actively were told to focus, and the result was the activation of these auricular muscles. Pretty cool. I dig this kind of stuff.
I think it's fascinating that a study like this comes out, because you think, how long have humans in modern times been using their ears, right? Like it should be visible. Like it's interesting that there's a study now that has figured this out. But
So
you said you saw something a while ago.
Coming soon to a podcast near you, I'm going to be launching an audio podcast, right? Just audio. It's not going to be on the show or anything. It's just going to be a podcast that is going to be the equivalent of steroids for your ears. And then in just a few short years, we will see people who have massive ears.
Oh, because their ear muscles will be working out that whole time.
True. There you go. And they'll be able to hear paint drying in another country. Moving on. Next article and our last one for tonight is over in Non Sequitur News. OpenAI's cost-effective new AI model is here to pressure from DeepSeek heats up. OpenAI introduced O3 Mini, a cost-effective reasoning AI model, on Friday. The release comes as DeepSeek's R3 model shakes up the tech world. O3 excels in science, math, and coding. My review of it basically was that it is really good at coding. And by proxy, it knows math and science, but math is the main benefactor here to the coding element of it. OpenAI's first small reasoning model is here just weeks after a Chinese AI startup emerged as a potential competitor to its artificial intelligence lineup. The only thing that I don't really... Look, I've been noodling around with all of the models of the R3. I've downloaded a whole bunch of other graphic versions of AIs because I wanted to see what is out there now. I use Midjourney and others, and I use
Is
ChatGPT.
R3 by the DeepSeek? Is it by DeepSeek?
R3 is DeepSeek, yeah. or R1, sorry, R1. R1 is DeepSeek. O3 is OpenAI. So I use OpenAI, I use DeepSeek, and I use a whole bunch of stuff from Hugging Face and Olama. And so I noodle around with this stuff all the time, but I don't trust any of it. I wouldn't throw. Look, it's hard to pick up just a 0 or a 1 that's stored on a storage device. They're really, really small, right?
Right, you might need some tweezers or something.
Something like force tweezers, yeah. I would not trust them, the data that AIs output, in any other element than creatively. It wants to do creative writing, fine. If it wants to do creative art, right? Art generation, fine. But the moment I want facts, I'll ask it, and then I'll go, I need to spend the next 2 hours vetting every damn line of this thing. So I might as well just do the work myself.
Go somewhere else initially.
Yeah. I mean, it might lead me to something or trigger like, oh, I didn't really think of that. Yeah. And it depends on how you do your research, either from top down or bottom up. Anyway, ChatGPT Maker launched OpenAI O3 Mini, its most cost-efficient model in its reasoning series on Friday. Jordan Hart put the article together for BusinessInsider.com, and here is, what's his name?
Altman?
Yeah,
Sam Altman?
Sam Altman going, a couple $1 billion is what I've got in my wallet right now. I have to sit like this because my wallet is too fat for me to sit like this.
Yeah, I think that's definitely what's going on in the photo.
Yeah. Anyway, R1 prompted OpenAI to say that it was investigating whether DeepSeek, which I guess is the
is that the knockoff of DeepSeek?
That's the West Virginia version of DeepSeek. May have inappropriately distilled the tech company's models. You weren't available, but I did a Time Machine episode for yesterday, and we talked about it briefly. Essentially, somebody has looked at the back end, the actual databases of DeepSeek's app, not the stuff that people can download and run locally.
Right.
And the database level schema matches OpenAI.
Oh my! So it's that blatant.
It seems to be, and I have a compatriot that mentioned, that they essentially did old school coding, and I have yet to meet with them in person to say, nah. I guess if by stealing content.
Right, yeah, like if it's taken from it, it's different than starting from scratch.
But the way I see it is they stood on the shoulders of giants who spent hundreds of millions of dollars to create the tech. And so it's a whole lot cheaper. And this is the analogy that I did. It's a whole lot cheaper to put a car together when somebody else makes the tires and builds the brakes. And all you have to do is bolt shit together. And now you've got a car. Well, all of these assets out here that are billionaires that are sitting there saying stuff about how they worked hard and blah, blah, blah. No, they didn't. They were given all of this money. It's not theirs. It's the same as DeepSeek. If they did distill, they distilled from a company that distilled all of the creative efforts of the world, right? So everybody is cheating everybody except for the actual content creators.
Right. But I don't know if this article was covered, but there was another article in Gnome that talked about somebody had basically redone DeepSeek for like some, less than $100. I don't remember what
it was.
The
$30.
amount was. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I talked about it in the Time Machine. Yeah, and that's where it brought up all of this. But for the life of me, I don't understand it. All of this money is going into it. There's somebody that's on YouTube that says, well, it's not going to slow anything down. It's going to accelerate because people see the value in AI. And so they're going to push harder to get to the next step. Ultimately, the next step is AGI, a general
Right, which is a
intelligence.
significant step. It's not incremental.
Yeah, I think OpenAI already has it. Anyway, why would they release it? You know, it would be a consultant to governments.
Well, they might want to release it at the right price.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Anyway, so yeah, this company is saying, or this little company supposedly did it for $30 or something like that, but they distilled something that was already done
Right, same thing as
as
what you were
DeepSeek,
just
but more consolidated.
Yeah.
It's ultra small. And then this R1 is, again, it's distilled. O3 Mini is distilled from the bigger model. And that distillation basically is, it's an AI that learns from an AI that learns. And so everything is more concentrated. But it isn't holistic then. You're going to lose something as the distillation takes place. It's kind of like distilling a beer into a distilled spirit. You're going to lose a lot of the nuance from the beer as it turns into a whiskey, or more closely to a vodka. But anyway, my point is a lot of fidelity is lost. So you want that bigger model. I've been trying to get the large DeepSeek model, but it's really
Isn't it
fast.
exorbitantly expensive? Or no, it's like
Large
storage. Or, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm looking for a server that is reasonably priced that I can get that has 512 gigs for my lab and not for it's for my personal use. But at any rate, that's outside the
Non Sequitur news.
non sequitur news. Anyway, that is the end of the show, by the way. So we are going to ask ChatGPT how to get our ass back to the main street of oh look, it's that easy. Just go over to ohmtown.com. You can sign in or sign up.
I can't believe it didn't hallucinate.
Anyway. So I'm saying bye. I'm taking the AI. My name is Mayor Watt, and that is ohmtown.com. Go over there and become a citizen, and the AI is going to say bye.
Good night, hometown citizens. Thanks for joining us for Non Sequitur News, and be back tomorrow for our weekend edition.
So if you're watching the video, I look really weird because I'm trying to reach the trigger for this. Bye, everybody.